Hey guys, welcome back to the Liberty Day podcast. I'm your host, Alex, along with my co-host, Cody. Today we'll be talking about the government shutdown, the EV tax credit ending, and the future of the automobile industry. And we'll be concluding with the mayoral race, or the New York Red Scare, and a whole lot more. So stick around and enjoy.
Today we have some important, maybe non-important stuff about this government shutdown pending. The October 1st deadline, so that's like 3 days. We want to try and answer what's a government shutdown in the first place, and is it something that's really important for us? Because it could be misconstrued a little bit. That's what Alex was kind of telling me, that he doesn't really care, right?
Yeah, I don't care. It can matter long term. I mean, there are things that can be affected by this, but typically a government shutdown's overbloated with the seriousness of it. And typically, you know why? Because during a government shutdown, you cannot go to a national park. Yeah. That's fact, by the way. You can't. They shut them down. You're not supposed to, though. I'm pretty sure that's usually, that's just a political thing that typically happens. Because I'm sure I can walk you through Yellowstone without a park ranger being actively there to make sure I'm not pissing on the wrong tree. So, anyways, they are serious, though. I mean, we don't want a government shutdown, right? When a government is shut down, that means there's no budget that has been passed. And what that essentially means is that no agency or department has the funding that they need to function. So while that sounds like a great thing for someone like me, who I'm a fiscal conservative. I want to be fiscally responsible as a government.
Small government, right?
I don't really think small government. I like a federal government.
I guess I say smaller.
Smaller pockets. I want a smaller pocketbook. Yeah. I want less checks going out. And so that sounds good, but the problem is there's already funding out there, and there's already people who are dependent on that funding. And so we can start rolling things back, but a full government shutdown can have some pretty serious effects for people. And I mean, we can actually see this in real time right now with certain states. And we can get into we'll get into why this is happening, and we can talk more about a general theme that we're seeing in budget passes. But states like Pennsylvania have now been 3 months out from their due date for their budget. And so you're starting to see government employees can't order things like paper towels and toilet paper. You're seeing schools struggling because they have no funding that was meant to be there at the start of the school year. And so there are real impacts that this can have on the American body. And so it's not something that we should say is great, but there are benefits to a government shutdown, and there's some things that might incentive. This is why, first of all, it's political. The government's probably not going to get shut down. If it happens, it's a really dumb move for the Democrats, and we can kind of get into that. But I kind of wanted to hear from you a little bit because I kind of rambled there for about 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, I have some information from The Guardian on this. And by the way, you should trust this guy. He works for the government. So for you to be dissing them like that means something. But according to The Guardian...
I matter so little in the government, by the way. So very little.
Yeah, he's not a Fed.
I'm a step above custodian.
A budget agreement by Congress must be made by September 30th, or federal funds will no longer be allocated to non-essential functions. That's pretty much what you're saying. Yeah. Non-essential is most things, but Social Security isn't. It's considered an essential function. So if you hear that, federal, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a good bit. I mean, maybe. I don't think so. Just keeping in mind that we almost have 400 million people who live in America, and that's such a small percentage of the American population. So you compare, like, okay, we have a huge population and huge departments who have to manage this huge population.
Sure.
It actually kind of makes sense. That's actually a little less than I was expecting.
I think with our technology, though, there'd be a lot of room to trim that up.
No, the government does not improve.
Well, that's what I mean. I feel like it could, but
yeah, it could.
Yeah. But I guess back to The Guardian, what they were saying, the Trump's policy focused more on cutting federal spending, as he's been doing with the Department of Government Efficiency and all those cool guys.
Yeah.
trying to lay off workers, dissolving departments, while the Democrats, the Republicans have a budget bill, but Democrat votes are needed for it to pass, and they want concessions. I have a quote here: "Extension of subsidies that limit the cost of health insurance under the Affordable Care Act."
Boo.
And are set to expire. A rollback of Medicaid cuts made in Trump's one big, beautiful bill.
Boo.
And the restoration of funding to public media that was cut in the rescissions package.
Boo.
I think all these are good things. Don't limiting the cost of health insurance, rollback of Medicaid cuts, restoration of funding. That all sounds like throwing money at problems again.
Yeah.
And even though we are having issues with healthcare costs spiking, we've always thrown money at these issues. I don't think throwing money at them is going to solve this problem. So I have an issue with these concessions that are being demanded.
Like I said, it's obviously political. I mean, obviously they're trying to attack the one big beautiful bill. And so, which is funny because they're doing it in the way that I wasn't fully expecting. But listen, NPR has no right to the taxpayer money. Why does the NPR even exist anymore? I get it when there wasn't that many radio shows. I get it when there wasn't a lot of TV shows. But now, why is PBS needed? Why is NPR needed? Personally, if I was the government, I'd sell the PBS IPs off to like Disney. Maybe not Disney, but some other kid show producer. They don't need to be producing some of these kid shows anymore. It's just I don't think there's huge demand for it. I don't think cable's really being used all that much anymore, right? And so I just never understood why we even have funding towards, let's be real, what it is. Propaganda. That's what it is. Anything,
it should be getting backed by the government.
Anything that is backed by the government that is supposed to tell you facts and stories that are happening in real life from the government is likely not the source you should be focused on, right? Right? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me that that's even a problem, which it isn't. Honest to God, if this was any other administration making these cuts, it wouldn't even be talked about right now. It's that this, and we saw it, we've kind of talked about this with the Jimmy Kimmel issue. This is this new campaign where they're deciding finally that the Constitution matters. They're going to, for some reason, fight for it, but they're fighting for it in the wrong way and not understanding what it actually means. Like, this isn't a freedom of speech issue. And actually, if you want to make it a freedom of speech issue, I, again, think the government being involved in public broadcasting is a freedom of speech issue. And that doesn't, to me, make sense. Why is the government...
It kind of locks down the market in a way.
But the rest of these fundings, I think, make sense. I don't think the Medicaid cuts are... first of all, they're a non-issue. Most of those cuts were from people who shouldn't even have it. All right, we're talking illegal immigrants who are not citizens, people who are not paying into the tax system, or at least not as much as American citizens are. And again, I think it's a good move because realistically, our biggest issue is a welfare net. Not to say I don't believe in welfare. I think having a welfare net is good for society. We're wealthy enough to do it. But to say that we should subsidize people's lives for the rest of their lives, for eternity, right? That doesn't make sense to me. It needs these things. So I love the fact that there's work requirements for some of these welfare programs. I like that. First of all, I think they're reasonable. They weren't like going.
Yeah, it's not saying, hey, if you're in a wheelchair, you work somehow, some way. It literally says if you are capable of working and don't have children, you have to work.
And by the way, 20 hours, dude. Go pick up
20 hours a week, right?
3 shifts at Target, and you've got it. Right, like go to your local Walmart. Okay,
and you can do that job in a wheelchair.
You can do that in a wheelchair. So, those people aren't being asked to do it, and so I actually like these cuts. So I don't actually think these are good arguments. They're the hill, and this has been a super big issue for the Democrats. Honestly, God, I wish they would hire me as their policy manager. I would have them being they would be a playoff team again. All right. They always pick the worst hills to die on.
Yeah, really.
Consistently. Okay? Why is this? These are the 3 concessions they want? Really? Right?
If they're trying to push an agenda, they flock to the 80-20 issues. A lot of these.
But that's all they ever
radicals do. When they could so easily try and get their way with other issues that maybe are a little more open to the public, but they don't. I don't know why. I don't fully understand the motive.
Well, and honestly, the problem here too is that too many things are becoming political. The reality is, if you want to fix healthcare and Medicaid, I'll tell you how you fix healthcare. Right? We rolled back just a few decades ago. This is before our time, but this is something our parents experienced, where healthcare was actually pretty good during our parents' time when they were younger. Right? And my parents tell me stories all the time about it. And really, what destroyed it is two issues. One, under the Reagan administration, where it was now healthcare turned more privatized and more for profit. And then two, Obama's administration, where we had the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, which is one of the worst pieces of legislation to ever pass in the history of America.
Yeah,
okay?
Don't get my dad started on Obamacare. There were plenty of car rides where he had nice, wonderful talks about Obamacare.
Oh, you mean like if you couldn't afford healthcare, that you'd be charged $600? I think it was $600 or $1,200 for every adult in the household who did not have health insurance. That was a fine that you got during your taxes. You had to say, yes, I have health insurance. And if you didn't, you had to pay a fine. Right?
That's wild.
That doesn't make sense. Guess when that ended, by the way? The first Trump administration was one of the first things he did. And honestly, from that day on, that man won all my respects. That could have been the only thing he did in his administration. I would have been like, dude, you saved thousands of people thousands of dollars. Thank you. But this is the issue. Healthcare shouldn't be a for-profit thing. I'm not saying certain parts of healthcare can't be for-profit. I think pharmaceuticals being somewhat for-profit can be advantageous. But I actually wish we would utilize... I wish the government would utilize their ability to turn things into utilities more often, right? Because that actually can assist the American people in costs. I am a big capitalist fan. I love capitalism. I really do. We were just talking about stock markets and stuff just like 10 minutes before doing this podcast. I love capitalism. But the problem for me as a huge capitalist is that certain things cannot be purely for profit. Some things aren't beneficial to be profit driven. Yep. And
Government does have a role.
Government does have a role, right? I should not have my energy company be for profit, right? I shouldn't have to shop around for energy. Oh, this guy's charging $150 less for 6 months, right? It shouldn't be like me picking a phone plan for energy. Water shouldn't be a phone plan, right? We do that now.
Right.
That's not socialist ideals. That's just government ideals. That's just saying certain things we shouldn't have set as for profit. I'm okay with that.
It just makes so much more sense to do it that way.
It makes more sense. Not saying that you can't, by the way. Energy companies make profit. These water companies make profit. They justify their profit. They have to justify to a committee. They used to justify it to Congress, but Congress has delegated that power more and more. But if they wanted to raise their prices, they actually had to go in front of a committee to explain why they needed to raise their prices, right? A water company couldn't just go, we're raising it by $100 on average. No, they had to go, hey, we're changing out all these pipes so that the water that they're getting is healthier. So we need to increase it by $150 per user. Oh, okay. For how long? 5 years. Okay, go ahead. Right? Profits were capped. So again, it wasn't that you couldn't make a bunch of money in energy. Not that you can't make a bunch of money in water. Trust me, you can. There are definitely municipalities who make bank off of their municipal services. But some things shouldn't be in question in the sense of healthcare the rising cost of healthcare makes no sense in America. Why we pay the most for healthcare doesn't quite make sense. Now, we have some of the best. I don't care who you are. If I have a heart attack, I want to be in America. Okay? That's where I want to be. That's just, at least from my understanding, that's how I feel about it, right? And so we have some of the best surgeons. We have some of the best medicine. But we pay so much. And it's crazy how much we pay. And I think, we're having all these issues with the budget. But again, I think this is where the government can actually come and make actual change. But the conclusion I'm having here is the reason they don't, and the reason healthcare has been a debate for almost 40, 50 years now, is because it's a campaign thing. It's something that they can sit on. right? These douchebags now get to sit here and say that people are losing health insurance and they're not being able to get life-saving surgeries and life-saving medication and life-saving prescriptions, acting as if the majority of Americans are actually just dying right now, right? But then, by the way, then they complain on the other side where Trump, hey, let's make America healthy again. Let's research. Let's look into like banning certain things in our food. And whoa. You guys can't ban things from food. That's undemocratic. What?
This is when the democracy matter.
Red 40 is democratic because we got red in our flag. I don't know.
Red 3.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, tag in here, man. I'm sorry. I go on these little tangents. I'm really passionate about this stuff, man.
No, I'd stop you if you started talking dumb, but no, I liked all that.
Thank you, man. Little snaps for me. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I know you didn't go to college, so you don't understand that, but educated people do that.
I understand that it's a way of recognition.
Yes, thank you.
But the government does intervene with certain aspects of the market, like you said, utilities like electricity, water, just because it makes sense. If we look at healthcare, maybe there are some ways that the government should be involved. I'm not an expert, but we can see that it's remarkably inconsistent how the government plays a role in healthcare. They tend to take power when they want, screw with things, then leave, come back, regulate things. We saw that a ton with COVID-19, when that started becoming a major issue in the United States. And I think we're still seeing the ripple effects of that now with these cost spikes, because so many hospitals and caretakers had to consolidate in order to even survive under the wild environment being created. So now I think we're still seeing ripples from that.
I agree.
Which leads me back to the government coming back in and throwing more money at it and trying to regulate even more. I just don't think that's going to fix it. That's kind of what caused the problem in the first place. It might be better to take a step back. Maybe if there's any regulation, have it be transparency, and then let the market work itself out. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, typically when the government throws money at anything, it just doesn't quite work out. More money is not always the solution. Actually, we know this. Actually, we have examples of where less government money actually benefits, right? So look at private schools. Why is it that public education has some of the highest funding per student in the entire world? We knock every other country out of the park with how much we spend per student in this country. It's like $10,000 per student or something like that. I think that's the average. And so you look and you're thinking, we have to have the best education in the world, right? Dude, we barely break like top 50, right? It's not good.
Fidget spinners.
Yeah, fidget spinners did it. But then you look at private education, you look at charter schools, and you look at Catholic schools, and these schools are doing great. And you ask yourself, wait, hold on. Not only are, and these aren't just like, it's this misconception that the only people who go to private school are wealthy people. That's not true. It just isn't, right? I know very middle class families who had their kids sent to private schools, right? Private elementary schools for the first few years of schooling, right? This is you have to ask yourself the question: if they're doing better, they must be spending more money, right? And then that's probably the conception, right? They have to be spending more than public education. It's like, no, they actually have less money to handle, and the money that they do bring in is from like the students, the parents are personally paying for it, and they have less to work with, except Catholic schools are probably funded by the Catholic Church. Pretty good backer, right?
Yeah, right.
But that's an example we see where you can throw as much money as you want at education. You can throw thousands of dollars towards students, and students aren't just magically going to be good at testing, right? Healthcare isn't going to just magically get better because we just threw another $1 billion at it, right? This actually going on the education thing, and I wanted to. College is another example of this, and we still see it today, where the cost of going to a college, tuition increases happen like almost every year. It's almost a given that when you go to college, the tuition you pay for your first year is going to be like 12% higher by the end of your 4 years. That's what happened at my college degree. I remember the first year ended, and we got an email coming into the next summer saying that it was increasing by 3%. That following one, it was like 4%. The last one, it didn't increase. I don't think it did anyways. I didn't really care because I was graduating. But the point being is the tuition increases almost every year. The cost of going to college increases every year. It's super expensive, which makes no sense to me because, you know what's funny is the government throws billions at education, at higher education, right? I was given thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in grants and scholarships and all the like, and I still couldn't afford to go to college. I still had to go pull out personal loans to be able to pay my tuition, right?
Wait, I think the issue is whenever stuff is given to the federal government, like the Federal Department of Education, we have such a large country with such vastly different regions of people that they're putting a blindfold on when they're tossing the money out.
Well,
if you leave it to the municipalities, the local government, I think you could have a much better result. Yes. Even if you still have even if it's like state ran schools or city ran schools, I think that's a much better allocation of resources if you still want public schooling.
Well, and I was going to say this because again, you see this trend in most government things. You see it in the military, you see it in the education department, and I think it comes down to something. And this is one of my favorite kind of academic theories, which is called the Bennett hypothesis. And something I personally, it's kind of going off of what I was saying, which is that this was the U.S. Secretary of Education in 1987, and he wrote in an op-ed piece, basically mapping out the argument that more specifically, he argued that the federal government's financial aid programs actually incentivize colleges to raise their tuitions. Because you think about it, okay, so if I'm a college and my cost is $20,000, and the federal government's coming in and going, all right, we'll cover that $20,000 for this person. Well, you know what? Actually, it's $30,000 now. So we'll take the 20, but this guy's still got to pay 10. Right? So, yeah. I mean, people still debate on whether or not this hypothesis is true or not. I think it's clear, right? College education has blown up to a proportion that is becoming completely unreasonable, which is why I actually enjoy the fact that within the big, beautiful bill, we now have caps on how much student loans you can pull from the federal government for undergrad and graduate education. I think that's great because a lot of people were worried that that's going to prevent doctors and lawyers from actually becoming doctors and lawyers. But I think Bennett hypothesis will get finally proven, which is I think you're going to see the cost of these educations have to come down a little bit because now students are going to get capped out on the federal programs. They're going to go, well, shoot, this person's just going to choose not to come here because the federal government isn't going to subsidize half of their education. But we're getting into speculation.
Prices have to get down. Yeah, we're speculating, but it does make sense. If you have a $30,000 bill, and you're expecting to have a $30,000 bill, and then you get a grant that says, "Hey, it's all going to get paid off."
Yeah.
If the guy giving you that bill says, "Well, actually, yeah, I'm sorry, man, I tried pulling strings, but it's going to have to be $40,000."
Yeah.
In your head, you got a deal. You're only paying $10,000. So,
but
I think that works. That could definitely be a working theory as to how these prices are up. Like I said, speculation, but I mean, it makes a lot of sense, very possible.
Yeah.
And we're gonna see if that's actually true or not.
Yeah, and kind of roll it back into the Medicare stuff. I mean, again, the more money we throw at Medicare and healthcare, clearly, I don't think the government has proved that its pocketbook has ever actually solved an issue. But I want to kind of move away from the healthcare debate because this is going into more of a healthcare discussion than government shutdown discussion. But I do want to talk about, the fact that we're seeing it become more difficult for governments to pass their budgets. I had mentioned Pennsylvania's state government is 3 months behind its budget, and that's a purple state. It's a swing state. It's equally divided, Republican and Democrat, in its state legislature. And so I'm curious on kind of what you're feeling about that. And I wonder, my question to you is, do from our discussion about political violence and rhetoric, do you think that those discussions aren't just enabling what we think are psychos and people who need to be helped to cause violent crime, but is it also enabling political partisanship to grow even farther and actually have a justification on why they're not working across the aisle anymore?
Well, that's absolutely. I feel like that's very true, very evident with what's going on. We got Donald Trump here to read a quote for us.
Oh, the man's here. All right, take it over, Big T.
He's gonna let us know what he thinks.
Okay, Big T, go.
Thank you. After reviewing the detail, unserious and ridiculous demands being made by the minority radical left Democrats in return for their votes to keep our thriving country open, I did that. I have decided that no meeting with their congressional leaders could possibly be productive.
True.
Thanks, man. President Trump.
Thanks, Mr. T. Big T.
Well, what he highlights there, and what I think is shared with most of the conservative party, is that the demands being made by the Democrats are, well, unserious and ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you go across the aisle and look at it from the Democrat voters' point of view, they probably see the budget plan by the right as ridiculous and impeding on healthcare rights and democracy, all that. See, I definitely can see how that's going to raise tensions, because with how this issue is being put up on social media and on mainstream media, is that this is life or death. This is the most important issue of our time. So anybody who's unstable and maybe has already started having violent thoughts, this could be a driver for some people to take action. I think that's a very, very real possibility.
Yeah. I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
I should note, Trump does actually plan to meet with Congress again on the 29th.
Yeah, I was.
He said he's expecting more realistic demands.
Yeah, I mean, this is the art of the deal, right? I also want to note with the government shutdown a few things, first of all, because I think they're important key things to understand. I don't think government's going to shut. I don't think it's going to shut down, and there's reason for that. It's a political move. I think it's a political show right now. The Democrats are going to try to look strong because they look weak. They have consistently looked weak, and the Republicans have just looked stronger and more organized, which is funny because we are, in my opinion, something that annoys me to all high heaven, is the fact that the Republican Party is probably one of the worst organizations, organization-wise, possible.
No, we tend to be pushovers, too.
We have a lot of pushovers, or we have too many factions that don't want to work together, which we're seeing, right? Part of the issue with this budget is the fact that we have rhinos who, for some reason, decide that their political ideology trumps any today action. And so it's stuff like that always bothers me, your Thomas Masseys of Congress and stuff. But two things I want to keep note when we're talking about this is one, keep in mind, Trump is 100% okay with having a government shutdown. He has in the past. Straight up, all right, we don't want to make a deal. The government shuts down. Have fun not getting your paychecks. Right? We see that. He's done that before in his first administration. And so I don't think we should be doubting the fact that he would be willing to have a government shutdown if it meant not making concessions, putting more pressure on the Democrats. Because depending on how the Republicans want to try to spin this, they could use this as a way to not only have effective more power during the government shutdown, and we'll get into that, but also spin the narrative to go, hey, if you don't want this to be happening, you guys need to get out and vote and get us more seats because we could do big things with more seats. So it could be a huge turning event for winning more seats in the midterm. But a second thing I want to keep in note when we're talking about government shutdown is that there are essential workers, and that's a legitimate thing, not just a COVID thing. The government does design or designate certain positions in certain departments in the government as essential workers, meaning that they have to work in order for the government to function. And because of that reason, during budget sessions, typically there is an allotted amount of money that goes into essential needs and essential funding. And during this time, the president actually gets quite a lot of power with the executive branch. And so there's people who have talked more in depth about that, and there's better constitutional legal analysis out that can kind of explain why the president kind of gets more control or more power during a government shutdown. But he does slightly because of that essential spending and basically being able to designate who is essential and who isn't, being able to fund certain departments and not fund certain departments because, not going to lie, government shuts down, that'd be a great opportunity for the president to decide to dismantle a whole bunch of load of the Department of Education if he wanted to. And so...
Oh, yeah.
He obviously, once Congress came back, it'd be lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit because, and maybe we can get into that in a different episode because this has probably been the most litigious administration. Not as in he is being litigious, as in lots of legal action has been taken against this administration before it got into office and during his office time, and it's only 8 months in. So,
yeah, I'd imagine though, after like let's say shutdown happens and it gets resolved, Congress is back talking to him again, like, hey, where's the Department of Education? And Trump's like sweeping the broken vase into the trash can, like. What Department of Education? I don't know what you're talking about. Frankly, I've never really heard of it.
Guys, you're still on that guy? You're still talking about the Department of Education? Yeah, I think it'll be interesting what we will see. But that's coming up pretty close. And so I guess we'll see how that transpires. Anything that you're thinking about? Any last minute thoughts on that? Or we feel pretty good about the government shutdown?
I don't think I have much more on the government shutdown. I agree with you. I feel like it's probably not going to happen. I think it's just a political tool being utilized by Democrats in Congress to try and rip at the big beautiful bill a little bit. However, yeah, I think Trump has a lot of levers that he can be pulling here to make that not happen, and he's already, like you said, he's already stood his ground before. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. We're going to get information on that very soon.
Wow. This is off the cup. Little side note. So for our audience listeners, I've never drinking a Celsius before. I've been on this binge of trying all of the grape flavors. I love grape. Celsius, if you want to sponsor us, feel free. Though I prefer Red Bull.
I prefer Fahrenheit.
I will do a backflip. Just to clarify, I can't do.
He's lying,
but I will do one. I'll do a face cam and do a backflip. Anyways, I drinking the Celsius and I looked over. It contains 0% juice. So
just how I like it.
So completely artificial flavoring. There's nothing natural about this at all. And the Amish kid who got me to try this lied to me. He said it was all natural. I don't think he understood that. But yeah, so there's no juice in this, but no sugar either. And no aspartame. So pretty good. I don't know how they made it sweet. Anyways, so that's off the note. That's, I guess, I just thought, don't drink Celsius. They're not good for you.
It's probably something that ends in "ide" that gives you that great flavor.
Yeah, there's some junk in this. There's
a guy, Nile Red. I think he made grape soda out of like plastic gloves or something. So that's probably just made out of plastic gloves.
Yeah, RFK. If you want to take a look at this, man, I'd realistically. Yeah, I'd look at the energy drink.
I don't know what you're saying.
You can't do that.
Metric system.
You can't do that. You cannot do that.
What?
Stop. I will keep that in, but just to understand, I like RFK.
Well, I like him too.
He's
like one of my favorite guys right now.
Yeah, I think he's great. I hope, but again,
he's doing awesome things.
Energy drinks, man. Look at them. Except Red Bull. Don't take Red Bull away. I like my Red Bull. But
don't touch that one.
But anyways, getting back into it, we got a few more discussions that we want to talk about here. We'll
Stuff
move
that's
into
not quite as
not as much serious. Maybe it's important to you guys, but we got the EV car tax credit is officially ending. What day is that? September 30th? Okay. So
yeah,
pretty soon. What, this week? Is that this week? Oh my God. Yeah, it's 2 days. The end of the month. In 2 days, the $7,500 tax credit on EVs officially ends. So if you're watching this on what? Oh, it's over by the time this is uploaded. So maybe if you got an EV, let me know.
Sorry for being late, guys.
Yeah, if you got an EV, let us know. Yeah, I mean, this is a good time to talk about it though, because we might be a little early on the discussion. Kind of want to hear from you a little bit, because you had read some articles, and I kind of want to talk. Let you kind of go off on this a little bit, and then we'll get back into it on my end. Okay.
Well, yeah. So being a proud owner of an electric vehicle, I can say,
awful car. It is a gas guzzler. The EPA hates everything about your Jeep. Be honest. The only thing electrical about that is the battery that's barely working. All right? That's actually probably the nicest part of your Jeep is the battery.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
that wasn't nice. Go ahead, man.
Well, yeah, so the $7,500 tax credit on EVs purchased in 2023 or after, you may qualify for it beforehand. No, before September 30th of 2025, if you've purchased an electric vehicle or a fuel cell vehicle,
yep,
you can qualify for this vehicle tax credit.
Yep.
Like I said, $7,500, but that is ending.
Yes. Well,
I think I'm pro that ending, because I think electric vehicles will have a place in the market, and they might actually already have a place. It's hard to tell though with how much the industry's been subsidized. I think those subsidies and tax credits should be pulled back so that the market can actually take its course normally. I feel like all these grants, subsidies, tax credits were pushed in for a green energy agenda instead of actual productive market growth. And I don't like having a fake market in there, because I think that ends up just being a burden on people and on industries.
Yeah. Sorry, I wanted to do a little reading here, but no,
yeah.
I don't actually think that anything that has to be subsidized is worth it. If your whole business model is based on the fact that the government gives your customer free money, right? Because I mean, we'll look at the biggest enemy number one with this is just Tesla. If you go on the website and you go to buy a Tesla, which we could get into how Tesla kind of is unfair in the car industry and how much it's been supported, but primarily focused on the EV stuff. If you go in, you'll click on, say, a Model 3, and it'll be like, oh, this is only $35,000, brand new. We'll deliver it to your house tomorrow. And you're like, oh, sweet. And then it shows these little icons under the button. You can click them off and go, it shows savings, price includes gas savings and tax credit savings. So you click those both off, it's like a $50,000 car. And you're like, whoa, what? Like, wait, hold on a second.
That's wild. They include gas savings too.
Yeah, so you finance the car, and you're going into it thinking you're financing like maybe $40,000 after putting on your favorite paint job and whatever. And then you actually reach the end of the buying period, and you're like, wait, why does it say $1,000 a month for like 60 months? What? Like, hold on. Why is it so expensive? It says 30 over there. Oh, that's because obviously you can't finance. Obviously, you get to put this towards the car once your tax credit comes in, silly goose. And since you're going to save all that money on gas, you can maybe make double payments now, silly goose. It's like, the tax credit doesn't help me, because my price per month is set the moment I have the loan. So the tax credit isn't going to fix that. I'm still going to pay the $700 a month. Now I'm just going to have $7,500. So,
well, you can just be fraudulent about $7,500 on your taxes, and then when tax season comes around, you just put that tax credit towards all those unpaid taxes, right?
No. So okay. Either way, I think that's crazy that they use the tax credit as a way to coerce people into thinking that they were actually buying a cheaper car than they realistically were ever going to get. And I actually am hugely against the government getting their hand in the free market. I really don't like that they needed to subsidize industries like that. No industry should have a subsidization. unless there's a clear and vital benefit to all Americans. I don't mind that we have agricultural subsidization, right? I don't mind farmers getting assistance from the government. I like farmers. What I don't like is a Fortune 500, one of the best stocks you can buy, Tesla companies, right, or Tesla getting tax breaks, right? Getting the consumer tricked into buying a car that they actually probably can't afford. Convinced because they think they're actually fixing the environment, which you're not. And again, I agree with you. I think electric cars have their place in the market. I actually like electric cars. I would love to own one if I didn't live in a...
They are pretty cool.
Yeah, if I didn't live out in the country, I would definitely own one. They're really cool. The technology is interesting. The concept's cool. They're, let's be real, 10 times more efficient than a gas or diesel car. They're overall, I think, a better car. I won't deny that. But if you're the better car, and if you label it like you are the better car, then do you need $7,500? Right? Why do you
get on the same playing field?
Yeah. Okay, because a new Tesla costs the same as a new F-150. So if I'm looking at an F-150, Tesla's not out of the... It's not like it's getting completely priced out. Oh, dude, now gas cars are going to take it over. No, I mean, you're going to still have a price that's competitive to other gas-guzzling cars, right? I can buy a brand new Tesla Model Y, or I can buy the Ford Expedition, or the Ford Explorer, or the Chevy Tahoe, right? So there's still competitiveness to it. I actually think now you're just saying, hey, it's time to play fair. But I kind of wanted your idea into this. I mean, do you enjoy when the government kind of seems to play favorites here? I obviously know your answer, but I want to hear your mindset and why.
Yeah, so nah.
Nah.
And the reason why in this specific regard, I actually have a specific gripe with the regulation, and that is that it incredibly favors electric vehicles, but not for emissions and efficiency. Because there should be a massive market for hybrid vehicles of all sorts.
True.
Because I think that hybrid is definitely the future while we have fossil fuels. Because fossil fuels are incredible. They have it's incredible energy density.
We have plenty of it.
Very easy to burn it and make it do work. And yeah, we have a lot. As much as some people might try to tell you we don't, and we're gonna run out 20 years ago. We have a lot. Diesel electric trains. Most trains now are diesel electric. They have a diesel generator that runs incredibly efficiently and drives electric motors with electricity. There's some companies emerging now that are starting to do that with trucks. Specifically Edison Motors. That's one I've been looking at a lot. They're based in Canada, but the regulations in Canada they're trying their hardest, it seems, to crush this company from creating diesel electric trucks. These trucks are getting gas mileages that, passenger cars could have, and they're logging trucks, but it's being shut down because they're not technically an electric vehicle because they're still a diesel truck. And they're having similar issues trying to merge into American markets. We don't really see any hybrid trucks. The closest I've seen were natural gas driven vehicles, which I think that's cool too, but there's so much room for hybridization that's not being utilized, and I think that's the next step efficiency wise. If you can have the biggest issues with emissions is not when an engine's running at its preferred RPM constantly, because then you could get incredibly good efficiencies, very little NOx, carbon monoxide, because it's burning incredibly efficiently. So just do that, have it run at 1 RPM, hook it up to a generator, and power the wheels with motors. But that's not incentivized for by these policies and by these regulations. So it's phased out completely, replaced by electric vehicles. But what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say that many car dealerships are I feel like turning their back to electric cars and reversing to that more sensible bridge, which is hybrid. Ford just recently, the last few months, announced that every F-150 going forward is going to be a hybrid. you have Lamborghini, which obviously many people listening to this, including us, will never be in a Lamborghini, but they're saying that going forward, they're going to have hybrid cars. And I think the issue with hybrid is, first of all, it was way too, what would you say, pushed under the rug, because there was this weird jump that we were going, okay, we need to go from gas to immediately full electric cars. And that to me just didn't make sense, because hybrids do not put a huge, arguably, I don't think they put much of any tear on the current electrical infrastructure, where an EV will. And we see that in California. We saw, 2 years ago, where California had to tell their residents, do not charge your car. Our energy cannot handle it, right? Hybrid doesn't, that's not an issue for a hybrid. So when you have like states like, you have your Midwest states like Montana, Iowa, stuff like that, where sure, I'm sure plenty of people would love to do better for the environment. I'm not an eco nut, but I don't particularly like gas emissions, not because of the world blowing up tomorrow because of the big giant sun, but because pollution's just not that good. I don't really like breathing it in. I don't like smog in my cities. But there's a time and a place for it, and I think hybrid would be an amazing way to go. And I'm glad that they're seeming to go back and reversing to going, yeah, maybe this is the way we should do it. Obviously, you know more about cars than me, but as a whole, I think I'm glad that we're seeing this reversal going back and saying, all right, maybe this is what we need to be doing. This is the more sensible way to bridge this gap. One of the things I want to ask you, because you know the car industry a little bit better than me, as far as actual motors and stuff. I know their stock price is pretty good.
You know the industry better than me. I know the cars.
And so I wonder if the hybrid issue, part of the hybrid issue for consumers, is a psychological one or a misunderstanding, right? For example, hybrid. When you think hybrid, I'll answer this. For example, when I think hybrid, my brain immediately goes to the Prius, this ugly shoebox car that nobody wants to drive. And so when you tell me my F-150 is a hybrid now, you're gonna get people to go, ugh, ew, hybrid. I think the consumer understanding of hybrid has been construed by ugly, bad cars that have been made in the past. That now,
absolutely,
cars now, which people think a hybrid car has less horsepower than all gas car, which of course you can kind of go into. But I want to hear your opinions on all of that.
Yeah. So for one, there's several ways that a hybrid system can actually be set up. You could still have an engine directly driving your tires, so it doesn't act like a hybrid normally would, where your engine's just kind of at a solid RPM charging your battery, and then it'll turn when it needs to and turn back on when required. There are hybrid systems that actually have a direct drivetrain for the motor directly driving the wheels, but they have a generator connected to that and a motor connected to that drivetrain, with batteries to power the motor. So you can still get that driving feel with it, your engine revving up, going down. You can even hook it up to a manual transmission if that's what a consumer wants. But you still get the benefits of the hybrid setup, where when you're just cruising, your engine may be running, but it's going to be using so little gas because it's just cruising. But whenever you're hitting the gas hard to speed up, your motor's doing most of the work. So you're still not using much gas. You're just using what your batteries can do. I think advertising can solve that issue entirely. If companies were to realize that EVs weren't the way to go, and they wanted to go towards hybrids, they could just show you F1 cars, because F1 engines and their whole drivetrain is one of the most brilliant hybrid setups I've ever seen. They have motors that can make like 800 horsepower, thousands of foot-pounds of torque, just to get the car going hundreds of miles an hour so fast. Crazy G-forces. All of that just because they need to use as little fuel as possible, because they have a limited amount of fuel they can use to race. I think it's a big advertising issue that can be solved. I think it'd be easy enough to stop people from thinking of the Prius when they hear hybrid, think of actually cool sports cars. That's what most sports cars are nowadays. They're hybrid setups, because it's such a good and efficient platform. that you can make big power and big efficiency all. That's the most I have for it. I support it heavily. I think hybrid, we already use it in trains, and it's an incredible setup. I think it should move down to trucks and maybe most passengers. While we have fossil fuels, we should use it.
Real quick though, for you as well, what's your opinion on any? Because they exist, and I'm curious what your opinions on like a diesel hybrid. I know that the Mercedes has a few. I think their E-Class series is a diesel hybrid, and I think in ideal conditions, it's rated to get almost 70 miles per gallon. So
well, I'm more in favor of diesel hybrids than gasoline hybrids. Because I think Rudolf Diesel made the diesel engine because he wanted efficiency, not power. A diesel engine and a turbo work perfectly together because you can tune the turbo to make the diesel engine incredibly efficient at a short band of RPM ranges. That's why nearly every big truck on the road, every single tractor trailer has a big diesel engine with a turbo. Because you can get incredible efficiencies in a short range of RPM. So hook that to a generator so you never need to rev that diesel engine and get it out of that narrow band of efficiency. And you can have just an incredibly efficient generator that you could also run on a lot of different types of fuel that are less refined, energy intensive to create than gasoline. So I think that would definitely be a better solution in a lot of cases for efficiency and even fuel cost.
Yeah, I think something like that could be cool. I was just curious on your opinion on it.
I could talk circles about it, so I shouldn't harp on that too much. But I'm very pro hybrid. I think it's the future if government gets uninvolved.
I think it's the near future. Definitely. I think the next 10, 30 years, almost everyone's going to be driving a hybrid. If not, honestly, I think sooner. You could probably see, at least, I think every single car manufacturer will have at least 2 flagship hybrid cars. I guarantee that. I mean, Ford already has, I think, their F-150, their F-250, and I think their Escape is all, they're hybrid cars. So I think we're going to see a big push for them. All right. Any last minute thoughts on that?
I guess if I should play devil's advocate a little bit. Hybrids are more complex, so they can break a little easier than an electric would because there's more moving parts. I mean, obviously you have an engine now connected to an already working electric drivetrain.
And typically, if the battery for the hybrid is dead, the car itself will not work.
Yeah, because most hybrid systems, the engine, all the engine does is power the batteries, and then the batteries power the motors.
Yeah.
So if your battery doesn't work, it's just like an EV, you're stranded.
So still, gas is king. So there we have it.
Ultimately, yeah.
Ultimately, for at least the near future, gas is king.
Well,
cool.
We got the dinosaur juice.
Yes, sir. All right. I've been into our last conversation today. Probably won't be a long one because I don't have much of a stake in this, but a little bit actually. We have a little bit of a stake in this. Pretty big deal.
Filet mignon. Get into it.
The mayoral race happening in New York City. Obviously, we understand that the current frontrunner and possible next mayor of New York City, the financial capital of the world, is a socialist, communist. I don't know what else we would call this guy. I think that's pretty much sums up the nicety part of it. We'll stick with the nice labels, I suppose, right?
Well, I think that's what he would want to be called. I mean,
I think that is what he wants to be called because that's what he is. He talks about that pretty openly. And we have Zohran Mamdani. I think I pronounced that correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct enough.
Yeah. He's currently the front runner, and we'll get into that in a second. Obviously, the big news that's happening at the beginning of this week, at least when we're recording this, is that Mayor Eric Adams, the current mayor of New York City, has dropped out of the race officially after pressure from political leaders and business leaders to do so that a more likely candidate could win against Mamdani. And so, yeah, I mean, first of all, that's interesting on its own, understanding that there's a huge pressure, clearly from leaders in many different industries to have someone who isn't like Zohran Mamdani winning the New York City election. So I'll let you go off a bit on that, then share your opinions here, man.
Well,
personal feelings so far.
Yeah, so I'm not too hopeful about New York. I have a gut feeling that Mamdani is going to win. Yeah. I have a lot of issues with that. I hear a lot of people say, like, why don't we just let New York taste their medicine and burn to the ground and then rebuild? I'd like to not do that. Like he said, a financial capital nation, we should maybe try and help, make this work. But with the policies that Mamdani's already proposed, like, you were not joking when you said communist.
No.
He wants state-run grocery stores or city-run grocery stores in New York to keep prices low. We've seen that before in Cuba, and look at those now. They practically don't exist. They're all gone, and there's really no grocery stores now. And everybody's starving. It does not work. However, it probably will work just long enough to make it seem like a good idea for people with too short of an attention span to see the bigger picture. And it'll work just long enough to completely destroy any small store, any small, family owner, even moderately large businesses in there, because it's a completely unfair competition to compete against the government in the market. So I think that'll just end up ruining that policy specifically can end up ruining the market in New York for groceries and other items like that. And now everybody's dependent on the government for those basic needs, and we know how that goes. We've seen it before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly in the camp of let it happen. I know, obviously,
really?
If we can avoid... Yeah, I mean, honestly, if we can avoid it, obviously that's better. But realistically, I do think the country needs a wake-up call, right? Because I think democratic socialism has been getting a massive uptick in a platform, right? Between him and AOC and Bernie Sanders, these people are becoming very big proponents in the Democratic Party. And if democratic socialism, what they want to call themselves, if that becomes the main platform of the second or pretty much the competing party in America, right? That could have some probably big issues. And so my hope is that, I don't think it's going to last that long. You have to remember, in typical fashion with most socialists, they're pretty lazy. And so I don't think they're going to work that well. And even if they do, I'm sure things will come out to say, yeah, I mean, it's running well, but this is costing, taxpayers well more than it would have been worth for them to just go and buy their groceries and not have the tax increase that this is going to have to demand, right? There's things that this is going to create where either way, I think it's going to show that socialism just doesn't have a place in America. It has no place in the world. Socialism does not work, and it's a bad concept. And so I kind of hope, I don't hope he wins, but if he does, I'm hoping there's a lesson that can be learned from it. And it's a huge deal because you're seeing businesses. I mean, this is going on a larger trend of citizens and businesses moving away from blue states for good reasons. You're seeing Texas and Florida becoming the new California and New York.
The stock exchange, New York Stock Exchange opened up
in Dallas.
It
doesn't mean the New York Stock Exchange moved to Dallas, but now they have a foot. They have an exit somewhere.
Yeah, I see it as getting ready to run. So
the New York Stock Exchange might still stay there, but it might turn more into, say, a museum, less than the place where stocks are exchanged, So I think many businesses are preparing to run from New York. I think many businesses are preparing to run from many blue states. Obviously, again, to the benefit of red states, to the benefit of the Republican Party. But obviously, what I don't like is the fact that this is coming at the detriment of American citizens. I don't care if you're blue or red. At the end of the day, American citizens are going to starve. American citizens are going to hurt financially because of bad policies that are consistently pushed by the Democratic Party. Financially speaking, if you are at all concerned about your own personal finances or the finances of this country, and you choose blue, if you choose blue, that's on you. All right, and more importantly, by moving to these red states, quit voting blue. That's a weird trend that we're seeing in Texas and Florida.
Yeah, I don't like that.
If you leave your blue state because it's bad, do not then go and turn red states into bad blue states. Okay? Don't do that. But I'm definitely curious how this is gonna turn out. I actually don't think he's gonna ultimately win. I think what I'm believing now is that polling agencies have lost most of their credibility. Again, presidential election shows it. Trump was supposed to lose against Hillary. Trump was supposed to lose against Kamala. Trump was not looking good in the polls for a very, very long time against the Biden and Harris then in that next election. And so polls are skewed, and for good reasons. Honestly, Republicans just don't answer poll calls often, right? If you're really thinking about it, who's more likely to answer the call saying, do you mind if I ask you a few questions about politics right now? You don't sound busy. Most conservatives are probably not taking that call, right? And so you have a skew in who's answering the poll. Typically, they're not polling in places that could get a general good population. Like, I think the best place to poll anyone is probably Pennsylvania, where it is so, like, you could call a town and it could be the most Democrat or the most Republican. It is really a 50-50. You could probably do that with Texas as well. I mean, it sounds like more of a big red state, but it really isn't a huge red state. It's pretty close to being a purple state. It's not quite, but it's inching there. So I think polling's a little skewed here. I think they're trying to make him look more likely than, I think it's a psychological thing. I think they're making him look more likely to be the candidate or the successor than he actually probably should be or would be. Am I saying Cuomo should be the one to come in and steamroll in and be the mayor of New York City? Better than Mamdani, but like I said, I don't have a huge.
What did you say about the turds?
Yeah.
Like it's easy to shine in a pile of turds.
Yeah, it's easy to shine in shit.
Not shining turds.
Yeah, it's easy to shine in shit. So yes, if you're around a bunch of crap, it is easy to look pretty good. That's why it's really easy to make employee of the month at retail chains, right? You just have to pretty much do your job and you'll make employee of the month, right? Not to say, hey, listen, retail workers, been there, done that, both of us. But yep. I worked with enough to know, pretty lazy group of people. But yeah, anyways, like I said, we don't really have huge stake in it residentially. I don't live anywhere near New York City, so I'm not really too worried about it. But, I'm obviously big into investing. I'm big in the financial world. And so, I'm curious how that's going to look for the stock exchange. And I'm curious if this is going to finally be socialism undone, revealed to the public in its full ugly glory. Or
my only worry is that socialism typically tends to work for a short period of time, or appears to work for a short period of time before inevitably failing. The timing of that could play a factor in these upcoming elections. I feel like it
temporarily, keeping in mind that
that's my only worry with this.
I don't think I would. It's a disease for sure, but New York City might flip a few blue states. Red states are going to continue to be hardliners. Purple states are going to continue to be hardliners, which means the majority of the country is still going to be mostly free market capitalism. In time for socialism to be unraveled, that eventually, yes, okay, those are going to shut down. I think the majority of the country does not have an appetite for socialism. You might see an uptick in the polling to say, oh man, maybe this stuff will work. Maybe it is a good idea to do it. But the more people who do it, the more governments that try to do it, the more quicker. I think the quicker you'll see it unraveled. So I'm not too worried about it at all, actually. Not at least in that way. But we'll see.
That wraps up what we have to talk about.
I think then. So. Any final concluding thoughts?
Yeah, I guess no, I don't. We really We talked pretty long about all these.
Yeah, I think we nailed
about
it.
These issues.
I think we hopefully made an enjoyable conversation for you all. I hope you guys enjoyed what we had to say. As always, make sure to follow, subscribe, wherever platform you're listening to us. Make sure you're following it, but also make sure you follow the rest. Why not? Who knows when you want to watch on YouTube instead of Rumble or Rumble instead of Spotify. Keeping in mind that depending on the content we talk about, certain channels or certain applications and platforms may not like what we're saying, and so you may have troubles listening to everything. So assure that you follow everything so you're up to date with everything we have to say, and so that you can support us. We
comment.
comments.
We want to hear everything you have to say.
Beyond that, hopefully you enjoy any changes we're making. We're trying to get better and better on each episode. I hope this one, I have some big plans for it, so hopefully this comes out pretty clean and smooth, and you guys enjoy these things. Yeah, we're slowly progressing to be a more professional pod. It takes time, it takes money, and we have neither of those things. So more support you guys can offer. Yeah, more support you guys can offer, the better. So that's all from me. Anything from you?
Thank you very much for listening.
Yes, sir.
We're going to keep recording.
All right. Peace out.